Okay, Schedule 1 is a problem. Let's watch it. Oh, Lord? Yeah.
I wanted to watch this. So Schedule 1, this game, in my opinion, has
I
been
played out the real
one
I
of
see.
the it's this year's Balatro, Vampire Survivors, or Among Us, right? Like, this is the new big indie game
I see.
made by an individual or a very, very small group of people that has totally popped the fuck off. Power World was made by a pretty big group. I think that this is definitely on the Balatro Vampire Survivors because it's just really one guy, as far as I know, that put this together. Tyler, yeah, some guy on Twitter.
Yeah,
Let's
pretty
take a
much
look
I
at
think
it.
Have you
so.
guys noticed how increasingly more common
How
it's
is the
becoming
video
for some
on?
of these indie games to come out of left field
Let me know
and
if it's
just
still on, okay?
absolutely decimate? I'm talking player numbers and sales that are embarrassing AAA games.
Yep.
Games made by one guy beating teams of 1,000 developers, tens of thousands if we're going to count Ubisoft in this conversation.
Tens of thousands.
Probably not for long, but
For a while.
Schedule 1 is a game about friendship. It's about making connections. It's
It
about
is.
starting from the bottom and working your way up. It's a
That's
game
right.
about drugs. It's a game about
It's a game about capitalism.
drugs, which makes it all the more ironic for how addicting the game is to play. But I'm seeing this game all over the place. It's on Twitter, it's on Reddit, it's
Yeah.
on YouTube, it's on Twitch. My buddy who just got his first
Yeah,
gaming
it's like
PC
reality,
opens up
man.
Steam for the first time, and it's the first game that he buys. Games like Schedule 1
Fucking based. I don't know.
that he buys,
Huh?
who just got his first
Wait,
gaming
what?
PC all over the place. It's on Twitter, it's on Reddit, it's
Yeah.
on YouTube, it's on Twitch. My buddy who just got his first gaming PC opens up Steam for the first time, and it's the first game that he buys. Games like Schedule 1
Fucking
The Idiot
based.
Slain?
Based. I don't know how many nights
Oh
I've
my
watched
God.
Queso drive around in it's like a red van or some shit. Just doing that constantly. Dude, I love this game. It is such a good game.
are becoming a problem.
Red van.
Because
red 40
these games
van.
are beating out games that are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make their games.
Mhm.
They're doing it without
Jesus
any
Christ.
marketing. And worst of all, they're cutting out the
I
middleman.
think the best part is it's co-op.
You can't have that. Because once you start doing those kind of things, when you have that kind of freedom to create and you're reaching that kind of success, you're going to start to attract some unwanted attention. And that's exactly where Schedule 1 is today.
Oh, yeah.
So today what I want to do is I want to talk
Every
about
time.
the insane success of Schedule 1, my experience
Yeah.
playing it, and why an industry that's ran by investors can't let games like this exist. Schedule 1 released 2 weeks ago, and within days, it had already climbed the Steam charts. As of recording this video, it is #1 top seller on Steam. It is #4 for
This video came out a little bit ago. Let's take a look at it right now. How is it doing right now? Let's see. Steam top sellers.
Is it #1? No way. No way it is #1.
#2? Beat out by RuneScape
Number 2,
Dragon Wilds,
okay,
which
fair enough.
again I think is a phenomenal game. Still #2.
current players, and it recently hit a peak of over
Damn.
450,000 concurrent
Oh
players,
my God.
and now averaging 340,000
That's
concurrent players
concurrent
per day.
at the same
It's currently
time.
outperforming Path of Exile.
Wait,
which
you're gonna
just
use a
released
gun
new
in this
content,
game?
edging out Monster Hunter
Yep.
Oh my
Wilds
God,
after its first
seriously? It's
title
just
on Bing,
basically
and it's
GTA
completely
5.
humiliating the quadruple spectacle that is Assassin's Creed Shadows. Schedule 1 is another entry in what is becoming an
The little
increasingly
bozo.
common trend. Indie developers releasing games with little to no marketing and watching them explode across the internet. Think Undertale, Stardew Valley, Vampire Survivors, Valheim, Power World, Balatro. Games made by a single developer or a
One
tiny
man.
team delivering exactly what players have been missing and absolutely dominating the charts. The game was developed by Tyler, an independent developer
looks
out of
like it's
Sydney,
well
Australia,
optimized.
working under the
Just a
By the
guy.
looks of it.
name Tyler's Video Game Studio. I laugh every single time I read that. Tyler handled nearly every aspect of the game himself, designing the game, programming it, systems, and the art, but he had some help with collaborators like K. Sewell, who's the one that composed the game's catchy soundtrack.
Yep.
Seriously, I've been jamming that music in the background while I've
It's
been
so good. Like, the music for this game hits in the same way that the Rust music hits, where it's like when it happens.
writing now.
Beautiful.
And Cody 2, who created some of the game's graffiti. Now,
Seriously?
despite its niche, the game has resonated with an enormous audience, and I think part of that has to do with the genre.
Yeah.
Schedule 1, at its core, is just a crafting sim. You start with nothing, and you work your way up through progressively more complex crafting systems, increasing your
Yeah,
wealth,
crafting
unlocking more
games are pretty
neighborhoods, and expanding your
satisfying to an
influence.
extent.
It's a familiar loop, or one that I've definitely hooked myself on quite a lot with games like
pretty common.
Terraria, Valheim, Enshrouded, or Minecraft. But Schedule 1's twist is the plot. You're essentially a small-time
Yeah, usually these kind of games rely on how much detail it has, like how much variety you can do with it.
dealer,
It
growing
seems
your
like
own
this
product,
game has
refining
many
it, selling
varieties.
it, and building out a crew to be able to help you scale out. I've personally sunk over 50 hours into the game now, and I've nearly unlocked everything short of the final neighborhood.
Like, look at this shit, by the way. Like, bro, he is cooking. Look at that. 6 effects? Oh my god.
The hell.
Short of the final neighborhood. And I'm completely sold. I keep playing the game every chance that I get.
No,
I love games like this,
he was
open-ended
with the
crafting
cocaine.
sims where you
that
get
was
to
insane.
define the pace yourself,
$1,000.
experiment with systems, and you get to feel like your time that you're investing into the game directly translates to actual growth within that game. You can be methodical. You can squeeze every little bit of value out of all of your resources.
Is that an
or you
alien
can
or what the
force
hell?
your way through, scaling up as fast as possible. Hell, you can even automate the entire process, so the game basically just plays itself. It's up to you. Don't laugh at me for getting technical, but what I think makes this game really special is how seamlessly it transitions between its 2 core gameplay loops, production and social progression. The first loop, growing and crafting, is simple at first. Plant a seed, water it, harvest the flower, but over time, you start to get access to additives, fertilizers, environmental controls,
People use that
scalable
for headaches, so what the
infrastructure. Every
hell?
plant
You can
that
make
has
drugs
unique
out of it?
traits, cost, potency, NPC demand.
Like, look at that, bro. Like, I've never even... Look at this. Heavenly cocaine. 8 affixes. Oh, bro, this is nuts. This guy beat the fucking game. That's
it's got runs,
shit?
yes. Looks like it.
PC demand. Then comes in the mixing system where you can start to enhance products with different effects, like making NPCs shoot out lightning, walk around on clouds, or turn them into aliens or zombies. It's ridiculous.
Well, I
but it
wonder
serves
why
a
he's
purpose
getting
to
cancelled.
increase the product's price and its appeal to your customers. I found myself lost here for hours experimenting with different mixtures and different orders of those mixtures and different effects that they could have, and now I have an 8 buff recipe, completely automated, and it's listing the
I think the
product for over
detail it has
$1,000. That
makes the
feels
game
good.
interesting.
Which then that brings me to the game's second loop, networking, and as your operation grows, you start to target different
Bro, I feel like a fucking idiot. So I'm sitting here trying to sell dime bags for $200 and they're telling me no, and this guy's dropping 1,000s? This guy's, bro, this guy's
You
moving
gotta upgrade the
bricks,
game. Skill issue.
and I'm trying to sell dime
Skill
bags
issue, buddy.
behind a dumpster.
Red buzzer.
No. This is embarrassing, man.
NPCs based on their preferences. You start to build rapport, earn trust, unlock new customers, recruit new crew members, and eventually get access to new suppliers
has a
that are gonna
man
boost your
how to
overall
cook.
operation. It's a system
Most
that
likely.
blends an emergent strategy with good old-fashioned trial and error, and it's surprisingly deep. Look, I'll be honest with you guys, I completely
I wish
assumed
this
that
game
game's
was not
popularity was
18,
mostly due to the
hopefully.
shock value.
Right, yeah.
It's not
It
every
looks like
day
a
that
very
you see
matured
game
game,
about
with the
selling
bugs and
powder
shit.
and flour to cartoon NPCs.
At
being a
least
top
GTA
seller, but the
level,
longer
you know?
I played,
I would say.
the more I realized how
just a good
satisfying all of
game.
its core systems really are.
Yeah.
It's not just the subject matter, it's how involved you are in the process. And
Exactly.
honestly, I think that's something that a lot of modern games have largely forgotten. In a lot of ways, the game
Yeah, if
actually
it's a
reminds
below
me of
that,
all
I
the
would
things
be
that I
really
really loved
skeptical
about
about
Kingdom
it.
Come Deliverance, which is a
That's
crazy
Kingdom Come
comparison to
Deliverance.
make when you think about
the
it. But
crafting,
when
yeah.
you're crafting a potion in that game, you're picking the herbs, you're grinding them manually, you're boiling them, you're maximizing your yield based on
that's
real
kinda cool.
input. You're smithing swords
I did it
with a
once,
hammer,
that's it.
cutting it
Yeah.
perfectly. You're controlling the temperature. You're properly sharpening weapons.
It gets
This
boring
game
after,
makes
like,
you
2
feel
minutes.
like you're doing that sort of work. Schedule 1, despite its goofy presentation, accomplishes something very similar here. You're adding ingredients, you're testing combinations, you're watching the effects, packaging your own product, and you're hitting the streets to make sales. The feedback loop is immediate and immersive, and it's not about watching a progress bar, it's about feeling like you're actually earning something by doing it.
I think that he brings up a really good point here. It's that, so here's an abstract comparison that I think is kind of similar to this. And if you take a step back and you think about it, Apparently, cake mix was
Okay.
possible to make with actually having the milk and eggs inside of the mix and have it, you know, like, what do you call it, dehydrated. But people that made cake mix found out that people actually like the process of putting in the milk and putting in the eggs themselves because it felt more like they were making a cake.
Wow.
And I think Schedule 1 and other games that approach it in that way are the same thing. And I think that's why things like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 are successful. Schedule 1 is successful. And sometimes it's like the example of how, you know how like a bad developer adds friction by introducing time gates, and a good developer introduces friction
Yeah, it
by
is
creating
annoying.
complexity in systems? Well, that's basically what the difference
Yes.
here is.
It. And it never loses its charm.
Yeah, I think in most games, what they do, they lock you behind a timer that you have to wait, literally wait, not doing anything. But it looks like in this game, you will actively walk in order to have that
The art style
timer
is
go away, you know?
crude in
So
a
it
deliberate
literally
way,
doesn't
full of
have a
absurd
timer.
and surreal-looking NPCs.
It
with
depends on how
exaggerated
effective you are.
animations. You're hiding in dumpsters. The game's fastest vehicle is a golden skateboard, and you're brewing concoctions that
fast.
warp the laws of nature itself.
Jesus.
But underneath all of that madness is a tight, responsive, and deeply satisfying gameplay loop.
That's
You're
also a
laugh-
really good point he's bringing up, is that the game plays well. This is a very important thing that many developers fail to realize, is that making sure the game
Yeah, it
plays
seems
well
like
is
it.
really important.
thing 1 minute and you're planning your expansion strategy the next. I love that every system feeds into one another. Want to automate your production? Well, you're going to need
That's
to build
called
out, buy
business,
some
yes.
infrastructure, and hire some
Absolutely.
employees. Want to scale up quickly? Well, you're going to need to build rep with your suppliers to be able to make more product. Want to
shit.
maximize your profit? Well, you're going to need to mix with precision and cater to customer demand. Yet at the exact same time, you can ignore all of that if you want. But if you want to dive in, you're rewarded for
That's
it.
what I do.
There's a surprising amount of freedom in how you approach everything. You can have your crew pushing your product while you're the one that's focusing on crafting.
Yep.
You can work solo and micromanage every step. You can run your empire in real time during the day and then focus on restocking and production at night. The game
Yep.
never really forces you into
Might
one
not be
particular
illegal,
play style,
yes.
but everything
Absolutely
feels
not
intuitive
legal.
enough that you always
Do
feel
not
like
try
you're making
this
some sort of
at
progress.
home.
I think what Schedule 1 proved,
I felt that way about like
Wait, is he selling, like this guy said, is he seriously selling
always
drugs
feel
to
like
a
you're making
fucking...
some sort of progress.
That's a
think-
priest. Look at this guy.
I think what Schedule 1 proved,
I felt
Yeah,
that way
go
about,
ahead,
like, 'cause I never
hello.
really
Thank you
wanted
for
to be
dropping
meth. Like,
by.
I just felt like I wanted to go straight from weed
Happy
to coke,
Easter,
right?
how you
'Cause,
doing?
like, it felt like more efficient to me. And it's like, yeah, games
Hope you're
that
doing
give you
good.
the
Thank you for
ability
the
to, like,
emo
approach
video
problems, like,
episode.
I think that the best video
Thank
games
you,
are the
Mark.
games that tell you to get to the number 4, but they don't say that you have to use 2 plus 2. And I think a great example of this, obviously, is Elden Ring and Dark Souls, but there are many other games that approach it in the same direction. The best of my understanding, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is kind of like this too. But basically, games that put an objective in front of you, and then you have a set of goals that you can do in order to achieve that objective or not.
yet
Baldur's Gate
again
3?
in this
Yeah,
case,
maybe.
especially when
I
it comes
haven't
to these
played that
indie
yet.
games, is
I
that
don't
the
know.
gap between indie and AAA has never been wider. I mean, I never take the time to analyze or even notice these kind of things if they even exist in AAA games. Their games are so bloated,
One last bit,
overproduced, obsessed with cutscenes and cinematic
But I'm forced to
presentation,
attend
often
it.
to the
Have
detriment
brother-
of the actual
Good
Yeah,
after that, I hope you're doing
you
good.
can't pet
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dog
doing
in this
good.
game.
Thank you,
How
thank
could it be
you.
a good
I just
game?
started.
experience. Schedule 1 is the
I
opposite.
just
and
recently
love
had
games
food
like
as well.
this.
Exactly.
So do the players. That's obvious enough. It's
Yeah,
lean. It's
people like playing video games. Imagine that.
focused. It's gameplay first.
Yeah,
and it works
what a
because it never
discovery.
forgets what players are actually here for, to play. Schedule 1 only costs $20. It delivers potentially hundreds of hours of content, strong systems, tons of replay value, and a
Yes.
surprising amount of multiplayer depth. It didn't need a
Yes.
cinematic trailer. It didn't need a live action ad
No.
campaign. It didn't need
It
pre-order.
didn't need a celebrity endorsements. It doesn't need a multi-million-dollar campaign on Twitch, but it got one for free. I mean, think about all the guys. Like, I mean, I think X played it too, right? I'm not sure. Like, I mean, obviously Queso playing it,
Hope the
Charlie
dinner goes
playing
well,
it, me
potato.
playing it. Lots of people played it, right? Everybody played this game. Emmy played it. Like, if you make a good game, people will play it. If you
I'm pretty
build it,
sure
they'll
many
come.
YouTubers wanna play this.
bonuses
It's
or
that simple.
influencer hype. It just
It's
needed to be good.
hilarious.
Yeah.
That was enough. This is going to sound ridiculous. I'm trying to think of the best way to be able to explain it. The graffiti on the wall is oddly relatable. makes me
It's
feel
just funny. It's funny. The reason why it's good is because it doesn't go through 3 or 4 levels of PR. I think that's another problem. It's
Yeah,
like
seems
if
like it.
Ubisoft was going to do graffiti, what they would do is they would hire 2 graffiti experts, and then they would have a person who does graffiti professionally go into a studio and then paint graffiti, and then they would have people that did a bitmap of the graffiti and then try to translate that into
Whoa.
images, and then that would have to be filtered through cultural consultants to make sure that it wasn't offensive in any way. And then finally, you'd be able to add it into the game, but there would only be 4 of the ways that you could do the graffiti, and 3 of them were on the store.
like one of my friends could have made this game.
Yep, pretty
And I
much.
think that has something to do with the game's popularity.
Yeah, not looking
Because
for more eggs and
The
fish.
inside jokes.
I mean, you could just have a bite and then not eat
for
for
me.
me,
Stuff,
you
the
know?
naming of the product that comes out in the end. I got the whole.
I mean, if
block
it's
book
like
on
a
Gorilla Spec.
buffet system, you can just take a level amount
Hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
or something like that.
And
It's
that's
funny.
endearing.
And you can just
wanna
wanna
see
let them know that you
see
already
yourself
have
in the
photo,
game, and
so
you feel
you
like
just
can
need a
relate to
little
the
bit.
person who made it. I don't
Yeah.
feel that way with a lot of games, and I haven't for a long time.
Of course
think
not,
that's
because they're made by weird freaks. You just look at them.
an incredibly important connection to be able to make. It's one of the intangibles of game
obvious.
design where you feel like your humor, imagination,
Yeah.
your interests are shared by the people that made it. You feel vindicated in that.
Yeah,
Like you have
it's
something in
funny.
common. And
The only game
It's
I
called
ever
being in touch
put
with your
any amount of
audience.
time
I think just about
It's
anybody
probably
Being fucking
Palworld.
normal.
because
could
you
say
gotta
this
have
industry has
Pokemon
been
on the
way
only,
out of
right?
touch with its audience for a long
Yeah, true.
time.
Granny would be there,
I've
so
played
it
a
should
lot
be
of
fine.
games since starting this
Nice,
channel,
nice.
and at this point, I'm starting to feel like these game developers live in an alternate universe.
They do. It's called Blue Sky.
Nothing feels relatable to me. Everything has to be a tangent to what's going on in the real world. Everything has to have a deeper message. Not everything needs to be like that. It's just not necessary. $20. Another $20 game goes on to
That's a
sell
fact.
millions of copies, making a solo developer a millionaire overnight. You know, when this game released and it immediately started to find some popularity, the developer went and put the game on sale. Who
Yeah.
does that? Somebody that wants to make money. Somebody that knows what you need to do.
Yeah.
Make a fun game.
Smart man.
Make it fairly priced. People buy it. Crazy concept, I know. This isn't rocket science. How many times have I seen these developers?
I
that are
mean,
basically
for the
trying
amount
to
of
learn
beating it
astrology to
has, I
figure
thought
out
it
what
would be
players want?
40.
Maybe if you
20,
read their
that's pretty
horoscope.
good.
Then you have a
Yeah. It's so simple. It's so easy. This is the same thing with streaming. Have you ever had like streaming?
Yeah,
like,
and for
people
my
try to
screen playing
explain
games,
how
yeah.
how complex streaming is? Do you know who didn't think streaming was complex? Queso, Kai, Jinxie, Chance, X, Train, Hassan, Speed.
No, you're not thinking about playing
You
games.
just do it.
Alright.
Get that shit out there. Boom, there it is.
But
Winners
Hell
win,
yeah.
losers lose. Aiden, yep, Aiden.
game that makes it where you can put horse glaze and chili powder into something to set
Ooh.
somebody's hair on fire and give them a long face.
Wait, I did that.
Monkey brain me like game. Me give money.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not that hard. It's really not that hard.
oh, you still doing
But
that?
that scares
Oh,
these
good.
C-suite executives because they don't understand the popularity, the virality, the relatability of these games because they can't reproduce it. They can't crack the code on this kind of thing. And because of that, their only answer is to suppress it. It's actually kind of insane how often we're seeing some of these viral indie hits run straight into some form of cold corporate or bureaucratic resistance, whether it's from platform policies, rating boards, legal ambiguity, or flat out
You remember
attempts
the
to
rating?
Man,
Remember
that's
how
so
they
much
tried to
money.
make Balatro? Bro, they try to make Balatro an 18-plus game, but FIFA's for 5-year-olds. So it's like, wait a minute. So you can gamble with fake money in Balatro, and that's bad. But you can gamble with real money in FIFA, and that's good.
Yeah, seems like it. Big brain.
How the fuck did this happen?
Big brain.
press or discredit
Jesus
them.
Christ.
There is a growing pattern here. A developer
Yeah.
releases something fresh and unexpected. It takes off, and suddenly they're in the crosshairs. Not because they did anything wrong, but because they succeeded outside of the system. When you take a moment to look at the legal and bureaucratic minefield that these indie developers have to tiptoe around just to be able to release a game, it's genuinely surprising that we ever see anything original at all. The modern gaming landscape isn't built to encourage creativity. It's structured to protect existing power, intellectual property, and investor interests.
Yeah.
In some ways, the system is designed to suffocate innovation unless it's coming from an approved source. I mean, Balatro got slammed by ratings boards for supposedly...
Yeah. Great example. Great fucking example. Amazing example. And yeah, exactly. So true.
Gambling just because it used poker hands in a scoring system despite no real gambling mechanics being in the game whatsoever. Pal World came under fire for copying Pokemon, even though the gameplay is wildly different because Nintendo's patent net is so wide that even breathing now seems like it's lawsuit worthy. I mean, while in litigation with Pocket Pair, Nintendo is still trying to file new patents to retroactively catch them on. It's reaching a point where making a game that even feels familiar or is using visual shorthand that players understand can get you pulled from storefronts
Damn,
and buried in
seriously?
lawsuits.
You don't know,
Now we have
didn't take
Schedule
that
1
out?
going through the same mess, originally reported on by Andrew
Nice.
Heighton of Insider Gaming in an article titled Schedule 1 being investigated for IP copyright infringement claims. They write, evidence on the investigation surfaced on a website, Pab Business, featuring a document entitled Movie Games SA 17-2025, Decision to Commence Investigation Against the Creators of Schedule 1 Production for claims regarding the infringement of the issuer's IP and related to committing an act of unfair competition
Vem
against
sana,
it.
hello.
Movie Games SA has
Thank you
its
for
own
the
series
video.
of drug dealing
How are you
games, Drug
doing?
Dealer Simulator 1 and Drug Dealer Simulator 2.
Happy
While
you
the name
still-
is more overt than its goal, both
Hope
titles
you're
have
doing
attracted
good.
thousands of players respectively. The legal document mentions potential infringement of the issuer's intellectual property rights and
Nothing
activities
much,
that bear
I see.
characteristics of unfair competition have been identified.
Normal days.
Ergo,
This is
Schedule
so
I'm on
1
what
is too
cloud?
similar
But
to
the what
Drug
goes
Dealer
easy in.
Simulator series. Proceedings began as soon as Schedule 1 released on March 24th and featured a comparative analysis of
And
the
then
IP,
soon on.
which includes Drug Dealer Simulator and Drug Dealer Simulator 2 and the Schedule
This
1.
is
Babysit?
like getting mad at Farming Simulator when somebody else makes another Farming Simulator because they're like, hey, they're both using tractors. I thought we did that. Oh, they're trying to use I see what they're doing. Get the fuck out
Project.
of here.
The investigation is
What a
strongly looking
joke.
into elements of the game's plot, mechanics, as well as UI user interface. It finishes by saying, the issuer will immediately inform about further actions related to the pursuit of claims regarding the infringement of the issuer's IP and the act of unfair competition in subsequent current reports.
This
Yeah, I'm-
apparently, by the way, seems like it's not going anywhere, and it was primarily a misunderstanding.
But it's Sunday, it's
So,
supposed to
for
be
anybody
no
who's
what
worried
day.
about Schedule
Well, I
1
gotta
having
call
a
you,
dark
Liz, so I
and
have
darker
to go.
situation,
Damn.
it seems like that's not going to
Hey,
happen.
sometimes it
and
happens,
it
you
was
know?
primarily, sure it was. Well, regardless of whether the intention was bad or not, it's not going anywhere.
I'm gonna take a wild guess here and say the unfair competition they're referring to is
Is
the part
losing.
where Drug Dealer Simulator
Yeah.
1 and 2 combined couldn't even crack 20,000 players, while Schedule 1 is one of the most talked about and played games on Steam right now. At least with Nintendo and Pal World, you could kind of see where that lawsuit was coming from. The creature
Yeah.
designs, the ball throwing
Sure.
mechanics, they were all surface level elements that were echoing Pokemon. Even with Temtem, they got out of the way of Nintendo by making sure they were using cards instead of balls. But this investigation against Schedule 1 feels completely out of pocket. It's not just a stretch, it's embarrassing that they're even trying. I've taken the time to check it out, and Schedule 1 doesn't really share anything structurally significant with their games whatsoever. The crafting, the
This game
progression
looks
loops,
bad.
the interface, the tone, it's all completely
Yeah, this
different.
is
To be
a
honest,
totally different game.
Ubisoft has a stronger claim against them ripping off a Far Cry than they do against Schedule 1. In their
Yeah.
games, you start off as a low-level pusher working for somebody else, then slowly build out your own operation. It leans way harder into weighing product, micromanaging dead drops,
Not
dodging
actual
rival
work day,
gangs,
it's
and
the
ferrying
money.
shipments across
Oh,
different
that's-
islands. It's less of a
that's
game
what
and
it
more of
is,
a tour
yeah.
simulator.
Nice,
Sure, they
nice.
both-
It's crazy how so many developers games
That's
have
what he used to
become
bonus.
systems, and they've ceased to be games. And I think that when you have something like
Mala is back.
Balatro come
Nice,
out,
nice.
or Vampire Survivors,
Back at
or
what?
Schedule
Was he
1,
playing?
it
He's cleaning
takes
it
you
up?
back
Oh,
to
good,
the
good.
time when games were just simply that. Games.
I mean, she is still playing
They're
Mobile
games.
Legends.
Like that's it. There
I
doesn't
think
need to be like some because I feel
And
like
then gotta go
a
break
lot
is
of
on.
games
Okay,
nowadays,
okay. Thank
it's
you for
almost like
dropping
they
by, friends.
need these
Really appreciate
certain
it.
irrelevant time
Have a nice
wasting
day and hope the
mechanisms
one
in
goes
them.
yes the end.
And it's
Bye bye.
exhausting to see. It's crazy. Movie Games is a publicly traded company. The board could not, in good faith, fight for the possibility of infringement. Well, they had to do an investigation, probably, but that was it. They're not going to go anywhere with it. Nothing's going to happen.
Both have similar themes, but if having drugs as your premise is going to be the trigger for legal action, by that logic, are they going to go after Breaking Bad next? After news of the investigation broke, media outlets jumped the gun and ran with headlines saying that Schedule 1 was facing an active lawsuit. The internet then did what it does best. Players flooded Drug Dealer Simulator 1 and 2 with negative reviews, dragging the game into a storm that they weren't ready for. In response to this, the developers posted a statement on Steam clarifying the situation. To paraphrase a little bit, they're saying that there is no lawsuit, that they're not trying to shut down Schedule 1, and the investigation was only launched after repeated comparisons between the two games raised concerns. Since Movie Games SA is a publicly traded company, they claim that they are legally obligated to investigate potential infringement and disclose it through proper stock market channels.
Alright, bye.
I hate to say it,
Perform? You do,
but
you
I
don't.
think
See
they're
you
right.
soon.
I do. I actually accept that reasoning.
TI. The media then picked it up from there, and the story spiraled out of control. They also then clarified, saying that the developer of Drug Dealer Simulator, Byte Runners, isn't involved at all. It's strictly a publisher-level decision. The post then closes with them insisting that there is no bad blood and that they even sent Schedule 1's developer best wishes before the game blew up. But whether it's legal obligation or damage control, it's clear that this isn't the kind of attention that they were expecting. And
Well,
this
they
is where
didn't want it, and I think that honestly, you, like, as somebody who's like, I have like a degree of knowledge of stuff like this kind of stuff is always really stupid. It's always really stupid. It's always like the publisher is trying to push for something that the developer doesn't want. There's some sort of distribution problem. Like there's, you know, like one random person at the company that's causing problems, like with Avowed, for example. Like it's usually a lot more complicated than you'd guess. IP loss sucks. Yeah, it does in some cases. It does.
Things get really weird for me because there was a second response, and this time it was from the actual developers at Byte Runners, where I think the first response was actually written by their publisher, and it's kind of a plot twist. In a statement that they posted on Twitter, Rafal, the CEO and developer of the Drug Dealer Simulator series, basically said, "We had no idea that this was happening." According to him, the development team wasn't informed of the investigation at all, and they only found out when the story blew up online, claiming,
I hate to say it,
seriously?
but they could be lying. But I'm
Well, as
willing
being
to
an
believe them.
ambassador of me, I see, I see.
they were just as blindsided as everyone else.
No,
He writes,
just and this just comes from me seeing and watching the dichotomy between publisher and developer relationships. No, like I know it sounds stupid, but please believe me that stupid is usually that's the operating
I'm
principle.
gonna write back.
that they work
Okay,
under.
see you soon. I'll go. See you soon.
in light of the recent movie games,
How can you say it's right? I'm not saying it's
I'm
right.
gonna call you
I'm
out.
saying it's probably
That sounds what I
accurate.
said.
I'm saying that their telling of this is accurate. It's believable.
Schedule 1 legal investigation controversy, I would like to state that we, Byte Runners, the development studio behind Drug Dealer Simulator series, do not have any ill intentions towards neither Schedule 1, TVGS, or the game community. Actions taken by our publisher, Movie Games SA, are a part of an internal policy and business interest, which we have no influence over. We were not.
Everything that I understand about video game publishing tells me that they're telling the truth. I'm sorry. It does.
Not informed of their plans and were also surprised by this course of action. We are currently in talks with Movie Games on this matter. For now, we do not want to publicly neither condone nor approve of the actions before these talks have come to any conclusions. I think basically this dude is saying we don't know if it's good or bad for us yet, so we need to wait.
Well, no, they can't, because if they have a non-disparagement, you can't disparage your publisher. Like, that's the reason why. So they can't come out against them and say, like, I guarantee you that the guys making Drug Dealer Simulator, actually, I don't guarantee you, I have a high probability the guys making Drug Dealer Simulator are like, fuck, this game's a lot better than ours. Shit, this sucks, right? But they're not trying to shut the game down by suing them. Fuck that. And also, developers usually, like, you think about like a development studio, right? And like, let's just think about this logically, right? Is that a development studio is like one of these little boxes.
Okay.
A publisher is like this, right?
He's pulling out a paint.
So-
It's gonna be good.
All these development studios are working under the publisher. So where do you think the legal department is? Do you think it's in the little box or the big box? Come on. It's in the big box. Like, what are we talking about? It's so obvious that this happened. Developers just do what they're told. Developers make games. They make games. They don't file lawsuits. Like, they're not doing this. They don't have the resources, the time. Why only Schedule 1 then? Why no other drug dealer simulators that are closer in systematic design but less profitable? Well, it's very simple. The publisher saw this and they decided, because of their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, that they had to conduct an investigation in order to find out if this was a violation of their IP. Because
I don't
that's
exactly
what
how
they're
Mobile
required to
Legends
do
are.
as
I
a
never
published-
played
a
that
publicly
game,
traded company.
so I'm not sure.
And there's also the possibility that they just got butthurt about
I mean,
it.
I
and
played
they
League
did
of
it anyway.
Legends, so I
But
have a decent
regardless of the
idea.
reason, I think that it's unfair for us to go after the actual developers of the drug dealer simulator and say, you're the ones who did this. And I know that I might be fighting against the current here because a lot of people want to hate. But what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to be as fair as I can be based off of what I understand about publishing and development studios and how that relationship exists. That's true. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I'm trying to do. And I don't think it's fair that they're getting that hate yet.
Figure it out. We would like to ask everyone on both DDS and Schedule 1 communities to
can't-
be patient and not
They
spread
can't shit on their publisher either. Like legally, they can't do that.
unnecessary
Yeah.
negativity or misinformation. We congratulate
That
the
would
success
be
of
a good
Schedule
idea.
If I had to bet, I bet the publisher is mad at them for even saying this. I bet they had to push and fight to even be able to say this, and there's a good chance that it was don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Where they didn't even ask about this and they just put it out there and the publisher got furious afterwards.
1 to TVGS and would
Probably.
like every gamer to enjoy and support any game they choose.
That's what
Our
I'm
main
guessing.
focus as the dev team is improving the DDS IP,
Just trying
which
to be
also
fair.
includes learning on the Schedule 1 massive success and its and our community feedback on it. All we ask for now is your understanding. The tone here couldn't be any more different from the original Steam post, where the publisher had framed the investigation as a necessary legal procedure. The developer comes off as almost embarrassed by the entire thing. Then they go out of their way
They
to
are.
distance themselves from the publisher's
Yeah.
actions, saying that they don't condone or approve of anything yet? What does that even mean? And now they're
That
just
is the best thing that they can say to distance themselves from the problem without violating the agreement of their contract. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's
Sounds
a
like it.
super boring. This is not a content decision, guys. This is super boring.
waiting for internal talks. I'm just going to go with my gut here and say they didn't expect the backlash to be this bad. There is no chance. There is no way that you are going to convince me that your publisher, without any communication, suddenly launched a legal investigation on your behalf using your game as a basis without you knowing anything about it. That is
I think that both things can be true. I think that they knew that the investigation was
Yes. I think he is trying to say that the developers also wanted the piece of the pie in this, and then as soon as they saw the backlash, in order to save their careers, they're just making the publishers the fall guys, you
happening,
know?
but they didn't have the ability to say no.
not how legal prep works. To even begin an investigation like this, you need access to build files, source assets, system documentation, something from the development
probably
team
owns
to be
the
able to
IP,
make
yeah.
the comparisons necessary for a legitimate IP case. So either you were involved and now you're walking it back, or your publisher went rogue and dragged you into a legal case without any warning and snuck into your office and stole the files. Neither one of those.
I think that you probably had to provide the source code, and there's a good chance the publisher might own the IP. That's what I think it could be. Yeah, that's what I think it probably could be. They were forced, yeah, or they were compelled to do it.
I mean,
Very
many
good.
games that are
And
like
even if for
backup
whatever
success
reason
like
Byte
this
Runners
from an
wasn't
indie
involved in this
company,
decision, I'm sorry.
kinda
This
get
is what
flags
comes to
like
the
this,
territory
you
when
know?
you sign up with a publisher.
It
Tyler
does.
didn't. He developed and published
It
Schedule
does.
1 himself. Every decision he makes, every success or controversy, it's all on him. But once
True.
you hand over the reins to a publisher, you are also signing up for all of their baggage, the legal departments,
Yep.
the investor meetings, the risk management, the corporate damage control. You don't get to opt out when it gets uncomfortable. And the claim that the investigation was already in motion before the game took off, total bullshit. The investigation was formally initiated on April 3rd. Schedule 1 launched on March 24th. And by the 30th, it had already hit over 400,000 concurrent players. This wasn't some long-planned legal strategy. Otherwise, why would you guys have sent them a congratulations email? It was a knee-jerk response to getting...
Well, I can tell you why. It's because the development team did that, but the publishing team didn't. That's what I think happened. So the publishing team was actively against this, while the development team, game can recognize game. I think that's what happened.
blown out of the water. I don't know about you guys, but from where I'm sitting, this looks like a textbook case of a publisher, and more likely their board of directors and shareholders panicking over the fact that the game that they backed didn't deliver, while a solo developer just ate their lunch in broad daylight. So now they're trying to claw back some relevance and revenue through legal pressure instead of actually trying to make games that people want to play. It's all retaliatory. It's all bitter, and it reeks of a system that sees creativity as not something to nurture, but something to control. Now, I actually posted...
He's completely right.
...this in a response on Twitter to the Byte Runner CEO's letter to the players, but I basically said... Yeah, this must suck to be completely powerless in this situation, but this is exactly what you signed up for. And honestly, the more that I think about it, this probably explains why so many of these self-published indie games are blowing up.
Just
All these
got
smaller
$1,000
studios
out
tied
of
to these
that.
tiny publishers are
That's a
scraping
massive
by.
W.
Creative freedom, no bureaucracy, no boardroom full of guys in suits that are second-guessing your every move, just a developer and an idea. And honestly, that's probably the conversation that we really need to be having here, because this isn't just about one game or one legal spat. There needs to be a bigger push towards independence in video game development. Too many of these publishers aren't interested in creating anything. They don't build worlds. They don't design mechanics. They don't tell stories. What they do is manage. And in that management, they influence the industry more than they contribute to it. Their primary...
Well, not only that, but they do it in a way that's parasitic, which is what the problem is. Like, publishers do a lot of things that are really useful and helpful for developers. Like, for example, managing media, doing localization, handling distribution, etc. So, like, it's not like it's not like publishers don't do anything. It's just that some of them take advantage of these developers in ways that are, in my opinion, completely unethical.
Goal isn't to support creativity, it's to control outcomes. They want to shape trends, shape players.
Are we on hating on Tyler against the side? I am on the side of the developers of the drug dealer simulator. I'm on the side of Tyler. I am against the side of the publisher that filed this lawsuit in their name. That's my take on it. That's what I think happened.
Yeah, fast ends to date, I would say.
Spending habits. And when they fund something, that comes with strings attached. Strings that always pull in the direction of risk aversion or maximizing profits. Sure, publishers offer funding and infrastructure. They offer visibility, marketing pipelines, access to networks, but it comes at the cost of freedom, of voice, of innovation. How many times have we heard stories about developers that were pressured into adding in microtransactions that they didn't want to put into their game?
Like,
Or how
watch
many
a funny
times have we
video,
heard about games that were
and then
forced
maybe
to pivot
watch a
towards live
science video
service,
after
even
that.
when that didn't fit their vision?
We will
These
see. We got a good
decisions
program
rarely come
again.
from the development team themselves.
Dragon Age the Veilguard.
That's a 1 hour
Very
video, bro.
obviously, if
I
you've
don't want to
played the
watch
game,
that. That's too
there's
big.
like, I think probably 6 people that have played the
Something
game
all
in
of
chat
small
right
at
now.
once.
You would know that I think the chances of that being a live service game was very high. And I think that they had to pivot away from that very early because of that. And so like now they had to pivot away from live service, and the game still had a lot of those vestiges in it. And I think that's what made the gameplay so one-dimensional.
They come from people upstairs,
Yeah,
people
could
staring
be.
at spreadsheets, not playtests, people who see creativity as a variable that needs to be managed, not a driving force. From my perspective, in many ways, publishers have become the industrialists of this medium. They're more concerned with scalability and litigation than actually making games themselves. They commodify everything about the
That is a
creative
business
process. They
creativity
strip out the
dies,
rough edges,
you know?
the weird ideas, the risk, and replace them with something that fits into their monetization model of the moment. And then they sit back wondering why none of these games are resonating, why they're failing to meet their sales targets. It's not the players that are the problem. It's not the developers that are the problem. It's the layer that's in between, the suits that are trying to systemize everything that's not meant to be a system in the first place. And the more games that we see, like
not everything can fit inside of a quarterly earnings report. And I think that's why studios, especially
Pretty
Eastern
much.
studios, are outperforming Western studios, especially American ones. It's because those studios don't have the same operational constraints, and they can take a more longitudinal approach to creating a product, and that allows them to create stronger and better artistic products that perform better in the market.
One that are succeeding without them,
so many examples.
The more obvious that becomes. You know, I think a lot of these
examples.
publishers and executives that are running these companies are the biggest barrier to creativity and success for the vast majority of these developers. They don't outright build anything.
I mean, there are so many variables, like a creativity is one thing, and then the monetization. The corporate companies have gotten too big to succeed, like Asmongold said. Many times before, they hire so many people, and then they have so many ad campaigns and stuff like that. And then not to mention the woke politics and other stuff as well. So it's basically death by thousand cuts, you could say. You know, monetization issues, and then the public politics issues. You know, they are so afraid to be gotten cancelled at Twitter. They make a bad game and get cancelled in real life. You know. So they are kind of fighting an imaginary problem that's only exists on the fucking internet. In reality, people just buy the game. This is a game about drugs, and then you selling drugs to people. It is ethically a bad game, but since it has a good gameplay loop, since it's a simulation, I think it's a more better success in reality, you know? Some games will sell because you cannot do the things in the game in real life. You know, it's not right. People know that. That's why they kind of wanted to do something in the imaginary world. So, you know, if you... people who play games as an escape from reality, and if you start to implement the laws and then the ethics from the real world into that, into the video game, that kills the fantasy, you know? If you kill a fantasy in a video game, that means you just failed in making a good video game that is entertaining, you know? So that's why many of those new games fail.
Themselves. They just go out of their way to try to control it or squash it if it threatens their margins in any way. And that sucks. Not just for us, the players, but also for the people that are making these games. I mean, like, patent laws in general in the video game ecosystem just don't make any sense whatsoever.
I think that a better way of looking at it is that, do patent laws work in the best interest of most of the people? I think that with video games, they absolutely do not. And I think that to a degree, they need to be nerfed. I think that's basically it. They need to nerf patent laws in one way or another. Probably in multiple ways.
All these layers of red tape for something that just shouldn't be there in the first place. Even if a developer isn't trying to copy something, they're just going to ignore it or try not to be anything like it just out of the implicit threat that comes from legal action. They just stay away from it. That's why we sit back and wonder why we haven't seen a game like this again, or that, or whatever it might be.
I think he actually brings up a really good point here, and I've never considered it this way, is that the amount of litigation that some of these companies incur, like, for example, Pocket Pair with Palworld, or now Tyler with Schedule 1, or also Local Thunk with Balatro and the rating debacle, it creates a chilling effect for other developers to try to break into the space, because
they are kind of afraid to not They just don't want to deal with this kind of backlash. Do you know how many death threats that pale one guy would have gotten out of this game? Like, Jesus Christ. Yes, he earned the money, but he would lose his mind, the peace of mind will be ruined. Some developers don't have the enough
They're
skill
worried
for
about-
that kind of stuff. One mouse, hello, how are you doing? How's the day? Hello and happy Easter, I hope you have a lovely and wonderful stream. Thank you for
being
loving me. I
made an
really
example
appreciate it.
of, or
How's
being
your day?
a target
Hope you're
for
doing
one of
good.
these big companies with a lot of money. I think this is a really good
Nana
point.
is about to play Fortnite. Okay.
In theory, publishers are supposed to be there to be able to make things easier for
Let me know
developers.
if
They're
he
supposed
has
to be able
a
to take care of all
slot
the
open
noise,
for me.
and then developers just focus on
On right the time.
doing what they do best, making video games, and that's about it. But the minute that you start handing over all of that power, all of a sudden you find
Get
out
us
that you don't
2
really get to
seats.
make a whole lot of decisions
Get
on
us
your
2
own
seats in
anymore.
Lala's game.
That's
Let's
what's happening to
go.
some of these people. When you get in bed with these guys, this is the end result.
It's
of
great.
that. They go out and
Thank
attack your
you.
competition.
See you
How
soon,
does that
Alexa.
feel? I
Thank
can't
you,
imagine that feels
Was
very
really
good.
appreciate it.
These guys are creatives. They
Thank
want
you
to
for
make
dropping
games. They
by.
want other people to be
Take care,
inspired
take
by
care.
their work and make games of their own. And now you have to sit
Have a
back
nice day
and
as well.
watch what happens. I'm sorry, man, but you're not innocent in that.
I think that a lot of developers feel like they have to take on publishers because if they don't, then they won't be able to distribute their product. And oftentimes, I think that a lot of them don't really understand the complexities of it, and they don't understand the implications. Like, oftentimes, again, another thing is that publishers
Damn, you have a
understand
timer
the
or something?
like, it's kind of like
Let's
how
go.
record labels take advantage of artists. Artists are not really businessmen, right? In a lot of cases, and not by definition in the same way that a record label by definition is a business. And so I think that that's really where the problem
Yes, I do
happens, is
have a
that
timer.
you have people
Nice.
who are on very unequal footing that are agreeing and deciding on things, and those agreements have an outcome that's it's bad for everybody, basically.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Sounds
Mentioned
good.
it a lot. Have you played Balatro as a card game? I've watched other people play Balatro a lot. I played it myself temporarily. I'm not really a big... Is it weird for me to say that I like watching it more than I like playing it?
And we feel the effects of it too, without a doubt.
Mhm.
We still get some great games, but at the exact same time, I mean, I've had a really weird feeling that things have just kind of felt samey for a really long time.
Yeah.
Very samey, very safe in a lot of cases. And I think that comes from the fact that, if any game tries to make a game like Pokemon,
You might get sued.
they're
Yeah.
going to get scared away, or they're going to get sued into oblivion. So many mechanics. I mean, look at the way that Nintendo has litigated and patented just about everything. Sony's been doing the same thing. Look at WB Games and the Nemesis system. Something that would revolutionize RPGs, and we'll never see it.
Until
Ever.
2026 or something like that, or 27.
They're such a
Yeah.
poison to this industry.
Alright,
It's
I think we
insane.
are gonna play Fortnite.
And
Let's go.
you look around and notice almost every single one of these breakout
Oh,
hits
is this
have
lad filmed?
always been self-published.
Nah, not yet.
And
Yep.
in some cases,
An example that goes against this is Dave the Diver, because it was published by Nexon. But I think in a general case, this is true.
where these developers did go through a publisher, the only reason they did that was to be able to protect their identity. There needs to be more options for that.
Mhm.
That needs to be nurtured and taken care of. There needs to be more developers that are making games themselves, publishing games themselves, and there needs to be an easier way for these guys to get onto platforms without the need of a publisher.
There is an easy way. The easy way is content creators. You have to get your game. If you make a good game, content creators will discover it.
It's just
and
taking
promote
10
it, and it will
videos
make
to
it
launch.
successful.
Give me a second.
I think
I'm
that
going.
a lot of games nowadays that
Wait
pop
for
off
me.
like that pop off because of content creators. And I've tried to spend more time myself looking at indie games. And, we had that show Pixel Pitch. We'll probably bring that back at some point too, where we invest into indie games and promote them ourselves. But I think that the most important thing is to break up the corporate hegemony that they have over video games and make the accessibility for distributing a game to a wide audience possible for a smaller developer.
There's already ways for them. You don't even need publishers anymore. Sure, for like legal and patent and stuff like that, hire a lawyer, man. Why are you handing away all of your profit, all of your control to a bunch of people that don't want to have anything to do with the creative process whatsoever? It just doesn't make any sense.
They do it for money, by the way. Like I know this intimately.
Money, give me
Is
money.
that
Let's
a lot of the
go.
big reasons why people take on publishers is because the publisher helps them fund the
Money.
project
It's
to
just
completion.
good business.
You can promote your games online with no
Faustian
problem.
Pact, right?
Balatro
Pretty
had
simple
next
idea.
to no marketing whatsoever. Schedule 1 had next to no marketing whatsoever. Valheim had no marketing whatsoever. There's so many more examples that I could give of games that never had an ad or a commercial or anything like that. They were just on Steam. People played it. People liked it. Spread by word of mouth.
Wow.
Fair price, good game. People go buy it.
What?
As far as it needs to go.
Oh,
That's what
you
needs to
can
happen.
do that?
We need more of it.
Oh.
And I want that to be a big focus. I think Steam is the leader in that.
Yeah.
Steam's definitely the one that's been pushing and helping a lot of these indie developers be able to find their legs in the industry. And I appreciate that. I think everybody does. There's a lot of games that we would have never...
Without Steam, I don't think that we would have had the success of any of these new indie games. He's completely right. Steam definitely leveled the playing field.